We have this story from the Daily Mail. Drea de Matteo, is that how you pronounce it? Sure. Blasts conservative commentator Tim Pool after he called the Sopranos star a hooker for joining OnlyFans. Quote, stop taking shots at struggling single moms. I object to this. I'm not a conservative.
You should sue them for defamation.
That's an insult to conservatives. But they do say Tim Pool is one of the biggest conservative influencers in the U.S. Okay, well, okay. It's like, do I get mad about? I'm not a conservative.
Influencer is a weird word, isn't it?
It is, right?
It is.
So let me tell you guys a story. I did a segment on it earlier, but actually, I'll just show you the tweet because they have it here. I tweeted. All right. There's a Barstool Sports story. Drea de Matteo made more in 1 month on OnlyFans than on The Sopranos. I responded. Women deciding to be hookers instead of having jobs is an arc I didn't expect feminism to take. Now, to be completely honest, I thought that was actually kind of a benign tweet. I did not actually think I was tweeting anything largely inflammatory, though it did end up getting 4.5 million views. I guess I don't know the weight of my own tweets sometimes. My point was not to insult Drea in any way. I don't care what she does. And I didn't realize hooker was an insult. It's quite literally what they're doing on OnlyFans. I'm like, you are taking requests from men to post sexually suggestive content in exchange for money. I'm like, just because we've changed the medium by which women can sell sex from the brothel to now over the phone, doesn't mean you're not a sex worker. And this is the funny thing. Everyone agrees they're sex workers. And I'm like, so they're hookers. I'm from Chicago. We just said hooker.
You have a very inclusive view of the word hooker, you know.
I just thought it was a general term for a woman who engaged in sexual activity for money. But yo, they got real mad.
Well,
they got real mad. And so now you've got there's this woman with 1 million followers on Instagram, and she's attacking me. And Drea made this big long-winded post. I wonder if it's like
we watched it before the show.
Here we go. Look at this.
And all we could was laugh at the length of the post.
It's like she says that.
Don't even read it.
She says, I'm fake news. I'm holier than thou. I'm talking about not things that don't matter to this country. I'm a shill, and she's like, I hope you never end up in a place like me, where you have no choice but to become a hooker or whatever.
No choices.
And I'm just like,
wait,
I was homeless.
She's recognizing she's a hooker?
She didn't say hooker. I'm saying hooker.
Oh, okay.
She said, end up in a place like me where you choose to do this.
Okay.
And I'm just like, she says, Tim Fool. Not only did I not know the great Tim Pool was an expert on feminism and hookers. Yes, I didn't realize. I'm going to go back to what I said because I think this is an extremely important point. I believe if you go back to the 70s, late 60s, and tell all these women, the end goal of women in the workplace will be to get them to all quit and all become sex workers. They'd be like, what? No, it's just disgusting. But there's story after story of, I was a nurse, but I make more money doing OnlyFans. I was a star on The Sopranos. I make more money doing OnlyFans. And I'm like, I didn't expect feminism to switch to just sell your bodies online to men for money. And we've talked about it. This is the end of women in the workplace for a few years until men start using AI to make fake women and do it better than women, which is already happening. So that's where we're at now. And I don't know. I think...
Look, they wanted the right to work, and this is what they did with it. It's awful. I hate it here.
It is straight up this is 100% women doing what women want, and then
I don't want to do that.
I'm not saying you. I'm not saying you. Individuals doing what individual women doing what individual women want, and then they don't like the way that someone else characterizes it or sees it or works.
Well, and she's acting like this was her only option.
I know.
That's what bothers me. She's like, I have no choices. I couldn't, have gotten my real estate license, taking a job. I couldn't have, worked a medium tier job, whatever. I couldn't have worked in fast food. This was the only thing available to me. That's just a lie. That's not true.
The whole point is just breaking through the facade that is held up, though. This is the Lizzo's beautiful. You remind me of Lizzo, and someone gets upset about that meme. That's exactly what's going on here. It's sex work is real work, and this person's a sex worker, and then you call them the wrong name.
Right.
How dare you call me what I'm doing?
And then you're using the wrong... So then it's just about the fact that it is a term that is looked at as a derogatory term. That's all it is.
Imagine if the Homeland Security Agency investigated OnlyFans the way they do P. Diddy.
Oh, right. Because there was one woman on OnlyFans
Underage.
The day she turned 18, at midnight, had a whole bunch of posts appear, and everyone went, that means those posts were made when she was not 18, and that was the point. So I'll read some of this. She says, here's another mean-spirited, judgment, holier-than-thou mouthpiece who didn't even bother to research his subject before firing off his disdain.
Mean-spirited.
He sounds exactly like the full-blown lefties he lambasts. Okay, here's what I think. I polled Twitter. I said, do you think it's fair to call women who sell sexually suggestive photos on OnlyFans hookers? 84.3% said yes, with 34,865 votes. I also asked a few other questions. So apparently when Drea announced her OnlyFans, she did it with a nude photo. According to numerous news reports, she posts nude photos. And typically, I guess it's like sexually suggestive, but fully clothed. And that's, I'm like, I look, all we're arguing now is degrees of being a hooker. Okay. You're a hooker and everyone's arguing. Yeah. But if you only are selling like if men are requesting photos and you send them to them, you're not engaging in the physical activity. So you are hooking, but is it enough to call? Okay. Now we're just arguing degrees. What's the point of this? I think the outrage here among so many of these women shows, similar to what Phil's saying, it's the hypocrisy. It's where they say things like, Dylan Mulvaney is beautiful. And you go, you're so beautiful. You look just like Dylan Mulvaney. And then they cry. And then we've seen a bunch of posts where like a guy was like, I made my aunt cry because she's like this liberal. And I said she looks like a trans woman. She got really upset by it. Like they claim to be like, they're beautiful. But if you call them that, they get angry. They claim to be like, I had to do this because, and I'll go on podcasts and I'll tell everyone I'm doing it. And then I say something semi-tepid like I didn't realize feminism was going to result in women choosing to be hookers, and she loses her mind because they deep down hate what they do, they regret doing it, they're ashamed of it.
No, many of them are victims of abuse. It's just terrible. And OnlyFans and people saying so-and-so has an OnlyFans account, the media just describes it as like a normal thing to do, which is another sign of the decline of our civilization.
We should treat OnlyFans like it's weird.
Can I read this one thing real quick? So this other woman, like I said on Real Housewives, says, Tim Pool can F all the way off for calling my girl Drea, my queen Drea, a hooker. Not that there's anything wrong with being a hooker. I mean, but that's not what she is. And how dare you call her something in a defamatory way for having an OnlyFans account? You dickless mother effer. I'm just sitting here being like, I never once said a mean thing about her.
Well, I was talking about this before the show started. This clip between Norm Macdonald talking to Jerry Seinfeld, and talking about Kojak, and McDonald's imitating Kojak, saying his daughter, the daughter who was killed, was a prostitute, and the mother said, "Well, she was a good girl," and he imitates Kojak. She was a hooker.
Yeah,
she was a hooker.
But with a heart of gold,
I
like this whole argument is so strange to me personally because like maybe you should just be like, yeah, Tim, I'm a hooker and I'm proud of it. Like, why can't you just embrace what you're doing if it's fine? But obviously you don't think it is. And also maybe it's not okay because this is a terrible way to treat yourself and to treat the women around you, right?
It's digital sex trafficking.
It's digital sex trafficking, and you are going on OnlyFans and making a profile.
Right,
like, this is weird. I don't like it. And again, what bothers me the most is she acted like she had no other options.
I want to push back on the digital sex trafficking because this is not the same thing as sex trafficking. That's because that's a crime. Like, sex trafficking is a crime that some people should go to jail for. What she's doing is not a crime. People can condemn it. You can dislike it. You can condemn it. That's fine. You don't have to like it, but it's not a crime.
Well, read the federal obscenity statutes.
Okay,
you might think otherwise.
All right, no. Okay, listen. First of all, I hate the government, so screw that goddamn obscenity thing. Okay, and second of all, like, sincerely, it's like, I'm the kind of libertarian guy. I think it's okay if people want to go ahead and do this kind of stuff. But society should not lie to itself about what it does and does not approve of. And the reaction that people are giving is because society is lying to itself. If you actually are okay with sex workers, which personally I am, like, I don't have a problem with it. And if you are okay with it, then it's okay. But if you aren't okay with it, it's okay to say, no, I don't think this is okay. But the fact that people are lying about it is why there's this cognitive dissonance in the reaction that people are having.
So if I tweeted, women quitting their jobs to begin sex work is an arc I didn't expect feminism to take, you think they would not have gotten mad?
I do think that there would have been less of a reaction. I do think some people would have been upset, but I do honestly think that had you used the term sex worker, I think that there would have been less reaction.
They should reclaim the term hooker.
It
Come
is.
on, team.
I'm not debating that at all. I'm just saying that the way that you articulate stuff does matter, and they're getting upset because they're perceiving it as an attack, because the term hooker has, for as long as we have, at least as long as I've been alive, been associated with a negative connotation.
Well, I guess my pushback, Tim, is that you shouldn't be surprised that the feminists, or at least the radical extremist leftists who call themselves feminists, because they've been embracing this concept of sex work for years. We're not allowed to use the word prostitute. Look, Google sex work with the Biden administration and human trafficking. They don't talk about prostitution anymore. They talk about it in a neutral term, in a neutral way that suggests that in some circumstances they endorse the abuse of every human being involved in that process, prostitution.
Yeah. So I think I figured it out. Phil, what if I said that she was the director of sexual gratification relief at her independent company? Do you think she would be upset if I said that?
No.
Maybe I should give her a
slide a
title.
boss bitch in there, and you get a pat on the back.
Let's do what George Carlin described when he was. I don't know if you've ever seen that bit about political correctness, where he says, "We used to call it shell shock. Now we call it post-traumatic stress disorder. We have to make it longer and more verbose." And I think, I don't know if he mentions invalid and retard. The things that people used to say that were considered normal descriptive terms became offensive for no reason. That's where we are now. Well, I am not letting this like leftist sex positive, movement take the word hooker from me. Well, when I was a kid, we said hooker.
Taking it back.
It wasn't an insult. It was just a thing. And it was like there were hookers there, and like that was a noun to describe a person. You can't get mad at a word because it describes you. That's it. Sorry. Have a nice day.
Well, and I think you have to accept that being on OnlyFans is the equivalent to sex work. We should stop pretending it's like, I'm a fun influencer, I just happen to be behind a paywall. Like, no.
Most people
you're engaged in sex work, just accept it. And if you're engaged in sex work, you're probably a hooker.
And we're laughing about her response. She's obviously a woman in crisis. We should be praying for her.
For sure.
That
but
she's
also
that she's in this situation and feels the need to respond, not necessarily you, but to respond to whatever crisis she's in by abusing herself through this sex trafficking film.
That's a very dignified and compassionate response. But I will say,
your judicial watch, Tom. You're killing me.
It does bother me that she is saying that this is like her only options. I mean, same thing with the girls who are like, I make more money on OnlyFans than being a nurse. But you don't have to make more money on OnlyFans. You could be a nurse.
You could choose to just
You could
be a
do
nurse.
something else. You're saying that this is the work I want to do because I find it either gratifying or easy or it pays big bucks and that's what I want to do.
But she makes this point where she's saying like, I hope you never end up like I am. And I was like, I was homeless several times. Not once did I resort to being a male escort. Or
I also hope you never get on OnlyFans, Tim.
The big deal to
Me too.
and I'm going to drive you even further crazy, it's like this normalization of vice. So we've got OnlyFans, and we spent decades trying to keep gambling out of sports. Now gambling has taken over sports in a way that is just extraordinary to me, that I just can't believe, given where we used to be in terms of keeping, the Pete Rose scandal and everything. Now, gambling has a seat at the table in every major sports league in the country. This player out in Los Angeles has gotten caught up in it. It's this normalization of vice. No good can come from it. And the fact that there's widespread OnlyFans activity online, widespread gambling online, is a sign of dysfunction, both legally and morally.
Not even online. We've talked about this quite a bit. Where we are right now in the tri-state, Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia. Let's quit. Maryland's got near the East Coast. You've got Horseshoe Baltimore Casino. You've got Maryland Live Casino. You've got MGM Casino. You've got Hollywood Paravel Casino. You've got Rocky Gap And so I think that's 5 casinos in the state of Maryland. Now let's talk about the surrounding areas, which are still within 2 or so hours driving from where we are. You've got those 5. Then you've got the Delaware racetrack, which is only like half an hour outside of Baltimore. Then you've got Harrisburg, Hollywood, York, Hollywood. That's 8. Then you've got Hollywood, Charlestown. There are 9 physical casinos within a couple hours. Then we can add, if you want to go to Pittsburgh, which is 2.5 to 3 hours. Now you've got Pittsburgh live, and you've got, I think you've got a Hollywood. I could be wrong, but let's just say 10 casinos. Then on your way, heading up north towards Pittsburgh, about 2 hours from here, you also have Lady Luck. There are 11 or 12 casinos within 2 or so hours of driving from where we are right now. 12.
And you're not even counting Atlantic City.
Oh, Atlantic City, I think, is 3.5 hours or 4 hours driving.
Yeah.
So it's a bit out there, but that's a day trip. You leave Saturday morning, you spend the night, you leave Sunday night, you're back home, couple out at Atlantic City. Now, I can tolerate Atlantic City in terms of the argument of vice. We have Vegas, we have Atlantic City.
Yeah, you kept them local.
They were vacation spots.
Specific,
You
right.
went to for your vacation to engage in your vices. You drink, you party, you gamble, but then you go back and say, okay, we're going to get back to being productive. Now it's just everywhere.
That's right, and it's all and interestingly, it's all targeted at young men. Both vices we're talking about.
Yep.
The whole, the gambling online operations. It's all the marketing seems to me directed at young men, and OnlyFans. I guess it's a broad marketing campaign.
Someone super chatted that I should tweet the sex work version. Well, I tweeted. I quoted the exact same story, and I wrote, women deciding to engage in sexual activity for strangers is an arc I didn't expect feminism to lead to. I hope that clears things up. Although I do believe they'll still get very, very angry that I referred to them as engaging in sexual activity for strangers, which is a fact. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.